Oh my God, does it kill me to share this episode with you? But I feel like I just simply must. For all my fellow photographers out there, particularly new photographers, you're about to learn what baptism by fire fucking means in a business. And I just want to share this with you as always because I'm super honest about all the good stuff and the bad stuff that happens in business. And, you know, I've been in this industry for quite a lot of time. And hopefully by listening to this, it reassures you if you've ever had a similar scenario or to prep you for it in case it fucking happens to you as well. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the 3 worst things that have happened to me as a photographer, and all of them still make me cringe. They still make me like, ugh, it feels so icky when I share them. But again, I want to share this with you so you guys can feel reassured if any of this crazy shit happens to you as well, that it's going to be okay and the world will continue to turn. So kicking straight off with the first one, I had a hard drive crash with over $7,000 of unfinished work on it. Oh, I literally cried every single day for 2 weeks whilst I was waiting for this hard drive to get returned to me. So I was uploading some photos from a session and I had been unplugging and plugging in my hard drive quite a lot, being really, really impatient with it. If it hadn't fully imported photos into Lightroom, I'd just cancel it and pull it out, or, you know, not safely eject the hard drive. And the thing is with hard drives, guys, it's not if they go down, it's when they go down. They are so temperamental. They are so likely to fucking fail on us. So always back up your work. Always back up your work and be so gentle with your hard drive as well. Ideally, like, external hard drives aren't supposed to be moved around all the time. They're supposed to stay in one spot. Even if they're portable, they don't like to be jiggled around. I've literally had someone throw my hard drive at me once before and I almost punched them in the face because there was so much work on it. I'm like, that is a piece of technology. Don't fucking throw it. So if you're the kind of person who's very, very naughty with your external hard drive and you don't back up, heed this warning and do not let it happen to you. So I was fucking around with my laptop a little bit, unplugging, not plugging in properly, ejecting unsafely and all of this kind of stuff. And then I'd plugged my hard drive in and it wasn't showing up on my computer. And the light was on and it was working, but it just wasn't showing up on my computer. It didn't matter how many times I plugged it in, pulled it out, put it in again, which probably added to the fucking disaster. It just wasn't working. I couldn't access it. And I had $7,000 of unpaid work on there. I had just done a full weekend shoot with 13 clients who had all paid around $500, $600 each for their sessions, and those photos hadn't been delivered. I'd done 3 couple shoots. I'd gone to Melbourne specifically to shoot, done 3 couple shoots and a portrait session. All of that unedited was all sitting on this hard drive that had just gone down. And I remember I was somewhere where there wasn't very good reception. I had to call because I was panicking, right? I was freaking out, hyperventilating, and oh my God, it was awful, the worst feeling. And I called and finally got in touch with an IT guy who said, stop pulling it in and out of the computer immediately. And I was like shitting it because I'd done it fucking 10 times. Stop doing that and get it to us. So I ended up taking it in. And he had it on him for 2 weeks, and I ended up calling him every couple of days because I was so nervous and so worried. I didn't know whether to tell my clients or not, because I didn't want to stress them out or worry them or just like deal with the onslaught of all of this unpaid work. And I was thinking, worst case scenario, I'm going to have to go shoot it all again. I'm going to have to fork out the money to pay the hair and makeup artist for the 13 sessions. I'm going to have to fly back to Melbourne. I'm going to have to facilitate this entire fucking body of work all over again, but I was prepared to do it. I was like, I don't give a shit. I will do what I have to do to get my clients their work. It's so in integrity for me. It's such a huge value of mine, delivering work on time and ensuring people get what they fucking paid for. So it was just one of the worst things that could have happened to me in my business. And I ended up telling my clients because I didn't want them to be left in the dark. I ended up telling them, saying what had happened and what my plan was if I was unable to get the photos back to them. Couple of weeks later, so it was literally a 2-week scenario, and I finally get the call from the IT guy who said he's able to restore the entire fucking hard drive, and I burst into tears. The relief that I felt in my body. He had to rebuild my entire fucking hard drive, like pull it apart, make a repeat copy of it. I don't know how he did this shit. Like, tech man is a fucking genius. Rebuilt it. It cost me $800 to get it restored, but I didn't give a fucking shit because for me, it wasn't even the money. It wasn't even the money that was on the hard drive. It was the unfinished work and just in that integrity of my business, and it was fucking awful. I'm so grateful that I didn't have any wedding work on there because I honestly just would have died, because imagine losing someone's wedding photos. Oh gosh. But this was such a huge fucking learning for me to back up my work and to make sure that it is saved in at least one other place, because it is not worth the heartache of when your hard drive goes down. And I'm saying this to you again, not if, but when. Your hard drive will fucking go down at some point. So just back up your work as often as you can. I can really recommend the LaCie or LaCie hard drive. It's a bright orange one. That's what I use all the time now. And that one is just the fucking tits. I absolutely love it. And it's, you know, a lot strong. It's called a rugged external hard drive. And I've had, you know, very few problems with that. Yes, I'd really recommend. It's a really great hard drive. So back your shit up. So that was one of the worst things that happened to me as a photographer. The second worst thing that has happened to me as a photographer is losing wedding photos. So I don't know what happened. One of my cards just had a little shit fit and I lost a bunch of the photos of the bridesmaids walking down the aisle when they were coming, you know, down for the ceremony. And I'm searching everywhere for these photos. I'm trying to re-upload from all the cards, and my card literally just had a fucking shit fit again. Technology, not if, but when. My memory card just had a shit fit and lost a bunch of photos from when the bridesmaids were walking down the aisle. Now, looking through the photos, it wasn't super noticeable, but again, it's not in integrity for me to lie to my clients. And, you know, it would have been so icky for me to have delivered the photos to them and not told them that there was some missing. That just didn't sit right with me. And I just felt so awful. So being honest, honesty is the best policy, guys. Honesty is the best policy. And I was just grateful that I had shot that on quite a small card. It was only 16 gigs instead of 32 or 64, which is another lesson for you wedding photographers out there. Don't be shooting on 64 gig cards, because if you're going to have a card down, you'd rather the 8 or 16 one go down than a 32 or 64. I know it's more of a pain to be changing between those fucking memory cards, but it's much more painful when you lose one. So I ended up being honest with my client and just coming clean and just said to them, look, I'm so sorry. We've had a bunch of these photos go missing. I don't know what has happened. This has never happened before. And it hadn't. I've never had it happen before, thank God, in my photography career as a wedding photographer. And I was just really honest with them. And my client, God bless them, because they were my ideal clients, the most beautiful humans in the world, were so understanding and just so like, oh, it's fine, not a problem, because the majority of them were still there. You know, luckily I hadn't lost anything of the bride and groom. All of their pose stuff was still there. All of the rest of the ceremony was still there, so they were just super grateful that it wasn't too many photos. I think it was maybe like 50 or so photos had been lost at this point, but it still felt icky, right? It still felt fucking awful having lost some of their photos of such an important part of the day. But honesty was the best policy, and I just came up front and told them this is what's happened, and they were just so gracious and understanding. And I said to them, when you guys have kids, I'm going to shoot that for free, like consider me your photographer the rest of your fucking life. And they're just so gracious and lovely, and I'm really thankful that they were such beautiful clients and they were just so fucking understanding. Whereas if I had not said anything and delivered the gallery and they had noticed, it just would have felt really slimy, you know, like really icky. So honesty is the best policy. Just be upfront with your clients when you know what's happened. So like, for example, in the last story I told you, I wanted to make sure I knew what was happening, what my action plan was before I told the clients that the external hard drive had gone down. But with these guys, I knew that I could not get those photos back, and I just had to be very honest with them, and very thankful that they were so understanding. But still makes me icky. I'm so glad I'm not a wedding photographer anymore, because the pressure of being a wedding photographer is fucking insane. Sorry for any of my wedding photographers listening out there. It is a high pressure job, and that is why you pay them what you pay them, because it is a once in a lifetime event, and you know, it is a lot of fucking stress. Such a stressful thing to shoot. And the third worst thing that has happened to me as a photographer, again, so fucking cringy. So it was my highest paid corporate job I had ever done. It's the highest invoice I had ever sent, and I was so nervous to send it, and I got recommended by a friend from my old job. And it was just to do some headshots for all of the big wigs at this company. So like all of like the CEO and the fucking HR, you know, manager, and like all the big important people in this office. We were on very strict time limits to get into their schedule, and it was just, you know, we took a few months to get them organized, which was crazy. And so I've turned up at this shoot to the best of my ability with the equipment that I had. I had lighting equipment, you know, my big proper strobes. I had a speed light in my back, you know, in my camera bag, just in case the strobes weren't working. But I was going to rely solely on my big flash equipment. When I started taking the photos, they didn't like how stroby it was, how flashy it was, and they preferred the look of the speed light. Now, because I had brought all of the strobe equipment, I thought I'm not going to need a speed light. So I didn't even bring any fucking AA batteries, did I? Didn't bring any AA batteries for this fucking flash in this thousands of dollars worth of photo shoot, you know, got being paid a lot of money for this shoot, and I don't even have batteries for my fucking flash. And I looked like an absolute fucking twit. I kept trying to take photos and the flash wasn't going off. And I was like, cool, guys, you're just going to have to hold for a second longer so I can take this shot. I'm trying to make them feel comfortable. They're also trying to rush because they've got to get to places. And I've just never felt more cringy and uncomfortable in a job in my entire fucking life. And it was a 2-day job. And on this day as well, like social media went down across the world. I literally, Facebook and Instagram and everything just went down. And I felt like I couldn't express my rage and upset, and I just felt so icky and awful. I couldn't Facebook message my friend who had referred me the job to tell her what was happening because I just felt so awful, and I just felt so incompetent and so fucking stupid and way out of my depth in this shoot, like way out of my depth. So first and only time I've ever felt that I didn't deserve the payment that I asked for, because I felt like I couldn't deliver them the shots that they were looking for, and it just felt so icky and awful. And I came back for the second day and I was much more prepared. Obviously that day I had all my fucking batteries with me, and that was just such a huge lesson to be prepared for all possible scenarios. You know, I'd had all this beautiful flash equipment and I looked so professional in my eyes with all this equipment, and it wasn't suiting the look that the client wanted, and then I had to crack out my tiny little speed light, which is just a flash that you attach onto the top of your camera with no fucking batteries in it. So it was barely, you know, the batteries, I think I had 4 in there, and they just kept dying and going off, and I just cringed and died at this shoot. And I just got really in my head and I couldn't focus on trying to make the client comfortable, and it just really fucked me up. And I just felt so uncomfortable and so out of my depth at this shoot. When we went outside and did the outside stuff, it was a lot easier because natural light is a lot easier to work with, but also corporate people are not my ideal client. So I don't even know why I know why I took the job on, because I wanted the fucking money, right? We always want to get paid. But I took this job on and it just wasn't in alignment with me. It wasn't the kind of work that I was trying to call in, and I shouldn't have taken it on. And I made a point to myself in that very moment of, I'm not taking on any more work like this. And I remember a friend at the time said to me, because I said, I'm never doing that again. They're like, yeah, but you got paid so much money for it. It was so worth it. I'm like, that money is not worth it. It is not worth the stress. It is not worth feeling incompetent. It is not worth feeling so out of my fucking depth in what I do. And I know I'm a good photographer, but this just isn't for me. And I just remember, you know, like the head honchos and the people running the shoot were just, oh God, looking at me like, you're a fucking idiot. And it just killed me. It still hurts me inside flashing back to that memory. It was fucking awful. So there are the 3 worst things that have happened to me as a photographer. And it is, again, just to remind you guys that bad shit happens, and you're going to have shit shoots, and you're going to have shit clients, and you're going to have times where you feel like, oh, I definitely got overpaid for that and I wasn't very good at that. And you're going to have it on the opposite end of the stream where you're like, I definitely deserve to be paid more for that. You know, sometimes I think I'd prefer it that way than being overpaid and feeling incompetent. I'd rather it underpaid and be very good at the job, but they're all lessons and they were all learnings for me, you know. So having the hard drive go down reminded me that backing up is so important. Losing wedding photos reminded me to keep shooting on small cards and work with your ideal clients who are going to be understanding if technology fucking fails on you, because that is so out of your control. And I learned that working for corporate is so not for me as well. Doing headshots for corporate businesses, although there's good money in it, was just not something that aligned with me very well. And by me putting up a boundary and saying I'm not doing that anymore, I was able to focus on what I was very good at, which was working with smaller brands, working with boudoir clients and female empowerment and weddings at the time. That was what was really lighting me up. So I channeled my energy and focused on that so much more, and was able to make the same amount, if not more money from my sessions, because I was doing something that I was very fucking good at and it felt in alignment to me as well. Hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better about any fuck ups that have happened in your business, or if you're in that same scenario or any of these scenarios right now. Just a reminder that I'm here on the other side of that and everything is fine. The world has not burned down. My business is fine. We fuck up, we make mistakes, technology goes down. It is all part of the experience, and it's a bit of a baptism by fire when this shit happens. Whenever I have students or clients message me being like, oh God, a hard drive went down or my Lightroom crashed or this happened, I'm like, babe, you are literally just going through the experience of being a photographer. It is a rite of passage. It is all part of it. And at the end of the day, whenever things happen in my business that seem really fucking awful at the time, I think 2 things. 1, this is going to make a great chapter in my book one day or a great podcast. And 2, is it going to matter in 5 years' time? Probably not. Then I don't want to spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. We problem solve, we find solutions, we fix the issue, we apologize, we own up, we do the best that we can to fix things. And at the end of the day, that's all you can do, is just do your best, knowing that next time you'll do better and that you're going to learn something from this experience too. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I can't wait to tune in with you guys next week for episode 9. If you have any suggestions or things that you would love to hear, I would love for you to shoot me a DM on Instagram or to leave a little note in the reviews on iTunes. Always appreciative for the love and the sharing, and sharing the podcast and your stories is always so appreciated. So thank you so much for being such a beautiful audience, and I will speak to you next week.